What up, gamers, and welcome to the Meta Report for patch 13.24, and let's just get into it. I'm going to try to keep this short because, look, not a lot has changed, so I'm just say this up front. Whatever you were doing last patch, it's probably good this patch. There are some new things and some new playstyles that we'll talk about, but if you guys just want to do, like, you know, building Sojin Nashers, building some healing reduction, and playing around AP lines, playing around Akali, going for legendaries, playing around Ziggs, playing around Sona, playing around Alawi, that sort of thing, that's going to be fine. Like, if you just want to do exactly what you're doing before, that's fine. If you want to do those AP lines and that sort of thing, Ziggs is a bit weaker, but you know, if you're in a position to build a Ziggs board, you have a good chance of going top 2 anyways. In general, just with Ziggs, he's still really good the way that he is now. And then also Sona, the attack speed angle is very good if you end up building a Rage Blade and that sort of thing. So in short, whatever you're doing last patch, it still works, except for Jazz reroll is not super good. You can play it in a very high roll spot, like a very early Bard, into an early Bard 3-star as well with some econ augments, that sort of thing. You can definitely play that as well. But yeah, the meta really still is just around some 3-cost 3-star comps. Some of the comps have changed, and legendary comps are really the only way to get a first place on this patch. 4-cost are a lot more playable, but if you have a 4-cost main carrying your build, it is extremely unlikely you're going to first place with a 4-cost centric build, but you can definitely get a top 2 and kind of tempo into that. We'll talk about that a little bit here. So let's talk about some things that have changed a little bit. So on 3-cost, the 3-cost side of things, Country is still very good, even though it got nerfed quite a bit. It's very good because it was already a good comp. And then also frontline AD carries are very meta at the moment. And you know what's really good against frontline AD carries? Samira and Vex. Samira and Vex just destroy those units. Amumu is very good into those things. And then Thresh, obviously. CC is the enemy of melee comps. And then Samira just destroys melee carries. So Country Reroll still very good if you guys want to do IE, Last Whisper, +1. Usually the +1 is Giant Slayer. Very, very, very good. Now, Urgot is not as good on this patch. He didn't really get a lot of changes or anything like that. It's just he doesn't have enough damage to kill the melee carries. So you definitely need to have Samira be the main carry or Vex be the main carry of these compositions. Urgot main carry is not nearly as good as it was last patch. And then you guys have probably seen a lot of crowd divers lately. So a lot of Yone stuff. Don't get baited. It's not like OP. It's kind of like the flavor of the, you know, the flavor of the week comp right now is crowd divers. Crowd divers is very good though. So a very good strategy. Let's just talk about the AD melee AD carry strategy. So a very common strategy right now, if you have an opener where you start the game with some swords and maybe you start the game with a Yasuo chosen or a Evelyn chosen, that is a very good indicator to slam the frontline AD carry items, which is going to be things like BT, Titans, Sterax, Hand of Justice, those items pretty much. QSS is good, but don't early slam QSS. Not a very good early slam usually. So that is usually the indicator. You get one of those early game melee carry chosens, and you also have those items, and that can tell you that you are going to play crowd divers or some other stuff. So if you have that opener, look to play Crowd Diver reroll. And so what I would look for if you're rolling on 6 or rolling on 7, if you get Yone Crowd Diver chosen or Katarina Crowd Diver chosen, they have to be Crowd Diver chosen, because what makes Crowd Diver OP is that once you get 6 Crowd Diver, it's crazy, especially with a 3-starred carry. So if you guys want to do that, it's very, 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 very good. So if you end up getting a Katarina chosen and you have items to play Katarina, and then you want to duo carry a Yone, as soon as you hit one of these 3-stars, usually it would be Katarina if she was chosen. If you get Katarina 3-star, with Crowd Divers, you still need to go to at least level 8 because you need to hit Kiana unless you high rolled a Nimblem. So if you end up 3-starring a Katarina, you play like the Hodge JG +1, which is her build. If you end up 3-starring her and you don't 3-star Yone, don't worry about it. Just have the items on 2-star Yone, go 8, and then make a 2-star Zed and move the items off of Yone to Zed. You'll need to remake the Yone, of course, and then you really cap up the board on Kiana. So you can play around Country for the mid game if you want to do this, or if you have Superfan frontline, it's very good. That's going to be very cheap. And then playing around Mordekaiser is really good on this patch right now if you are going to play Yone variation. So playing around the core of Kale, Mordekaiser, and Yone, if you are going Yone chosen, that is the very good variation. You don't actually dip into Superfan usually now. It's just too hard to fit. The other thing to say about kind of like the reroll crowd diver stuff is Heartsteel is 5 Heartsteel is very, 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 very strong on stage 3. So if you get a Heartsteel chosen, like this might be a little bit high level, but if you get like a Heartsteel set chosen or something like that, or whatever, then a lot of times you can just play for that. And if you see that you're uncontested on Yone, then you can get a 5 Heartsteel cash out on stage 3 and then roll for your Yone. Or just if you are contested for Yone and you don't want to go for Yone chosen, just use that energy to get to a level 8, build a 4-cost comp, and then go legendaries on 9. So that is kind of like the flavor of the week stuff right now, the AD reroll, as well as, here's something that's very important, is if you end up building those items, you totally don't have to reroll, because you can just go to level 8 and you can play around Zed. If you get a crowd diver Zed chosen, or just EDM Zed chosen, that's fine too. If you're going to go and cap your board out by selling the Zed later when you go to level 9. Zed chosen is very good on stage 4. Just forward crowd diver is enough for him to really pop off on stage 4 and stage 5. He really starts to fall off on stage 6 if you don't have 6 crowd diver and like a Kiana upgraded. So if you end up sticking around with just the Zed chosen, you will need to go to 9 and get your Kiana to get 6 crowd diver, and you really cap the board with like York plus a couple other goodies in there. Don't worry about playing EDMs when you play Zed. The best amount of EDMs when you play Zed is 0 EDMs. Just Zed, just the one, I guess. You really just want to build around more crowd divers and just really good units. Don't worry about playing too many EDMs, and you'll be good to go. So the other thing you can do is you can play around Viego. Viego is not very strong as a main carry. He definitely needs a secondary carry, whether that be Karthus or Akali. And a common strategy on Viego right now is to build red buff on Viego or Morello. Red buff is better, but just red buff +2, and you just rely on Viego really just slamming down on the team and getting huge value from his large AoE and the healing reduction. Healing reduction is extremely good on this patch because melee AD carries is very good. Also, healing reduction is always good, but it's extremely important on this patch to build a Morello or a red buff. Sunfire is okay, but you really want a Morello or red buff because there's just so many good appliers, and you can apply it on the whole team, especially Viego. So if you guys want to play around Viego, it's usually red buff +2, and you have to have another carry, whether that be Karthus or Akali. I think Karthus is a little bit weaker on this patch because there's a lot of melee AD carries, and Karthus is not very good at one-shotting those. With Karthus, he's really good at killing squishies. Those units are not very squishy. So, if you can get an Akali, or if you actually reroll Yone and you get a Yone duo carry. But Viego needs a duo carry, so don't get baited by main carrying him. So like I just said, 4 costs are playable. Like there's some Caitlyn stuff, there's some Ezreal stuff. But if you're main carrying a 4 cost, you are not going to first place unless you are playing in super low elo, I guess. Or if you are able to supplement that with a lot of legendaries to build around it. I've seen some Ahri comps first place. Some Ahri, Akali comps first place, but again, they supplemented it very hard with legendary units around it. So yeah, pretty much guys, you just want to play, anything you were playing last patch is still good. Like the disco stuff is still fine. I think it's a little bit weaker, but it's still fine. And just a lot of the melee AD carries are very good. Another thing to note is true damage. So let's talk about true damage a little bit here, because this true damage Senna comp is popping up, and I definitely called this one on my passionate rundown. I said, hey guys, really look out for Senna reroll. I played a lot of Senna reroll on PBE, and it was very good. And then they nerfed Senna really hard, and it wasn't very good anymore. It was like okay to top 4. Now it is pretty good, and I said this in my passionate run. I feel very good for feel very good about myself for calling this out. Senna's reroll problem right now was that its power curve was very strange. You had to get to 9 to, like, you'd pop off really hard once you get Senna 3 on stage 3, stage 4, when you're level 6, level 7. That was really, really, really strong. But your level 8, there was just a power like vacuum. Like it just goes down. Like there's just nothing there. And that is because Akali true damage was not very good, but they buffed Akali true damage, and it's actually pretty solid. So this is another comp that you can play if you start the game and you build those 80 carry items, like those frontline 80 carry items like BT, Titans, that sort of thing. And you could just carry that on your Yasuo. And then if you get Senna chosen when you do your level 6 roll down, it's not like Senna's itemization is not that difficult. So her superfan item, you're going to play around superfans whenever you play this. Her superfan item is Spear of Sojin. And then after that, you can build whatever. I really like Spear of Sojin plus Nashor's +1. I really like that. You know, you can go GS, you can go, JG is not super good. You can go Archangels, you can go red buff on her. I actually really like red buff on her. It's very good. Or Morello is good as well. And then you push into your Akali, you roll for your Akali on 8, and that is actually very strong. And then you cap out your board on 9 once you get Kiana. Try to find another Yasuo throughout the game if you had the item hold on your Yasuo. And then you get the 6 true damage, and it really gets really insane with Senna 3-star and Akali 2-star. I mean, if you get to Kiana 2-star, you probably can first place the game. So that's another strategy that's popped up. That is a new comp. Spellweaver Annie is still okay. It gets still solid if you're high rolling it. You know, a comp that is pretty good that you're not going to see on this, that is good if you high roll it, is Corki. Corki reroll. So Corki 8-bit chosen, not big shot. If you have Corki 8-bit chosen, building items, I really like building. I mean, it's just Last Whisper +1, and then you play Superfan, so you get Deathblade. But I really like Last Whisper Runans. But Last Whisper GS is very good. Last Whisper IE is very good. I don't know. Runans always just feels really nice to me. He gets a lot of damage off in the early game. I kind of like it. But anyways, that's pretty good. You just play Superfan frontline with KDA, with Kaisa, and then you toss in the Riven for 8-bits. That's another new thing that's kind of popped up a little bit. Let's see, anything else that is like really interesting. Edgelord Riven. So if you end up getting Riven chosen, you're trying to look for the Yone, and you end up getting Edgelord chosen, whether that be Yone or Riven. You can look for a Riven 3-star. She's very uncontested. Even the people rerolling Yone, they'll just only hold 3 copies of Riven a lot of the times, or they don't hold any, and they're like building more towards Crowd Diver. As soon as they hit their Viego, a lot of people will just sell their Riven. So Riven 3 is actually pretty easy to hit, and it's pretty good to top 4. And I've beaten some Yone comps with Riven 3 on this patch, so that's been pretty good. You'll see all these like 4-cost comps are rated really low. It's because, again, guys, like you can't be playing 4-cost comps and expect to like, you can't be like low health and then go into level 8, hit a 4-cost comp and expect to win the game that way. Like if you're low health going into level 8 and then you have to stay level 8, you're not going to top 4. Unless you're playing in Super Luyo, maybe. It's just not going to happen. So that's why you're going to see all these 4-cost comps really not looking good. But that is just because people are playing them when they're behind. And it just messes with the data. Because again, if you're ahead, you probably don't finish the game with a 4-cost. So in synopsis, guys, whatever you guys were doing last patch, still going to be pretty good. But now you can play melee 80 carries. There's Yone reroll. Crowd Divers are very good. Vertical Crowd Diver, very good. Edgelords are okay. They're pretty solid. If you go in the Edgelord line, it's pretty solid, especially if you get Yone 3, Riven 3, plus a Viego 2 with red buff or something like that. Pretty solid comp. I played it today. New comp that popped up, Senna reroll. It's pretty good because the power curve into true damage Akali. Look out for true damage Akali, is very good. But again, everything you were doing last patch also still works. But there's just some new stuff. That's it, guys. Good luck climbing. And I'll see you on the next one.